Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Move this down. Here's how this is gonna go. It is a little after 10 o'clock. We are gonna go until approximately 11. This is regarding, for those of you watching the recording later and everybody in the room, this is specifically on expireds and for sale by owners. More leaning towards expireds, but everything you're going to hear goes towards both expireds and for sale by owners. So listings. Why listings? Yes, why listings?
To build a business in real estate, you have to build a business.
To build a business, you have to be able to get listings. Why do we have to be able to get listings? Don't all answer at once. I can't handle it. Like I really can't this morning. All right. It's just too much. Don't all talk.
That's what our paycheck is gonna be.
Our paycheck is going to be exactly.
Build a bank, a listing bank.
We actually make more money off of listings than buyers. We build a listing bank.
Listings create buyers.
Listings create buyers. So there is a study done. The study is done. Everybody who knows me knows I love research. I'm a research junkie. Like I literally sit with my laptop while watching movies at home and just research stuff because it's fun. All right. I am that person. So on average, and I use the words on average because it depends on what the agent does. On average, when you put a sign in a yard and it has your name on it, yes, it has the brokerage name on it, all that information, because compliance, it has to, or you're going to get fined. On average, when you put a sign in the yard and you take a listing, if you work it properly, and sometimes even if you don't work it properly and you're just lucky, you should get 3 other pieces of business out there. Another listing and probably 2 more buyers. Listings will bring you more money, more business, and can we as agents, let me rephrase this question. Hold on. I'm going to rephrase it. I'm going to say, if I were to hand you 21 listings right now, now new agents are like, whoa, hold up now. 21 listings versus 21 buyers in a month. Which one sounds more doable? Okay, why? They said the listings. Why? Very true. Yes, the buyer's agent's doing the physical work. When you get a listing, it's not just, don't be that agent who's like, yeah, I got a listing, there's a sign in the yard, it's on MLS, I'm done, I'm not doing anything, hopefully it sells. Don't be that agent. That's 80% of the agents out there who do very little amount of business. Be the other agent, be the one who actually works for your client. But that just means a little bit of marketing, a little social media, right? Some other things you'll learn about at the very end of this. Where a buyer, you are driving around, you're showing houses, then you fill up with gas to drive around and show more houses to fill up with gas. To then make an offer to not be accepted in this market today. To then make another offer to not be accepted in this market today. Repeat times 9. Okay, to then get it accepted. Now, don't get me wrong, I love buyers. We need buyers, okay? Because if not, we'd have all these listings go expired, talking about today. So we need listings. Long story short, we need listings. In today's market, we need listings more than ever. Why am I saying that? Today, September, whatever day it is, I don't even know what day it is, 5th, we need listings more than anything. Why?
There's 20 buyers for every one listing.
There's 20 buyers for every one listing. There's way too many buyers and not enough listings. This is a nationwide problem right now, not just Maryland, nationwide. So one of the fastest ways to get listings. Now, there's dozens of different ways to get listings. What we're going to talk about today is one of the fastest ways to get listings, which is expires and for sale by owners. Why is this the fastest way? Once you get used to it and understand what to say and put some time into it to learn it, why is this the fastest way? Yes, Rochelle.
Because these are the people that want to sell. And we have
Yes, they they are so low hanging fruit. They want to sell. They've already, so expireds raised both hands and they said, I want to sell my house for a reason because I want to go somewhere for a reason. Okay. For sale by owners raised one hand and said, oh, and they said, and I'm willing to pay an agent. For sale by owners raised one hand and said, I want to sell my house to go somewhere for a reason. And I think I can do it on my own. I think I don't need an agent. Okay. Which is the very end of this. So what we're going to do is, so a really good friend of mine, her name is Anna Kruger. So Anna is a national MAPS coach, what's called a national mastery coach with Keller Williams International. And so she works with agents and teams nationwide on certain topics. One of her primary topics she teaches on is language patterns. How to say things get better results. So Anna, she's the one who brought me into real estate. So Anna lives in South Carolina, Greenville to be exact. I'm gonna give you a little history because you're gonna watch her for about 30 minutes. So Anna is from Maryland originally. That's how I know her. We used to work at a university together back in 2006. I actually trained her. I was a manager and trained her to be the trainer. University, she had to move to the Carolinas because of her mom. The university in that area shut down. So she's like, what the hell do I do? So she got into real estate. She started in real estate as what's called an inside sales associate. An inside sales associate is a lead gen machine. It is a person who puts a headset on and sits there 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, minus lunch break. So technically 7 hours a day, okay, because you got to refuel, dialing about 300 to 500 numbers to talk to about 30 to 40 people every day to set at least 1 to 2 appointments every single day. So back in the day, her bread and butter was expireds and for sale by owners. She averaged somewhere between 8 to 10 appointments every week, listings. 8 to 10 listing appointments every week. Now she was also dialing 7 hours a day. Okay, so oh my God, I can't lead gen for an hour. This, Zach, it's just too much. I can't do it. Oh my God, an hour of lead gen. Oh, yeah. Talk to Anna. So Anna got me in the business. She talked to me for 2 years. I was still at the university here. And for 2 years, she's like, oh my God, get into real estate with me. Get into real estate with me. So for 2 years, I said no. Because I wasn't getting in real estate. I had no desire. But then the university shut down in Maryland. And I was like, shit, what do I do? Part of my language, I never recording. But it's after the holiday, it's acceptable. So she's like, oh my God, just get into real estate. So I was doing some other jobs out there, recruiting jobs, and she introduced me to someone here at Keller Williams. And I was getting my license, so I didn't have my license yet, while working another job. And they started me as an inside sales associate. That's how Anna started. She's like, just start the same way I did. I was like, while you get your license. I was like, okay. So coming in, there was no training, no coaches, any of that stuff. It was just a whole lot of YouTube and Anna. So getting into real estate, I ended up, was like, okay, I have a headset. I need to call people. I went on Amazon, I bought myself a little headset. I was like, I need to call people. Who the hell do I call to set appointments? So I was like, well, expires and for sale by owners already said they want to sell their house. That sounds really easy. I was like, and I had nobody to tell me otherwise. It was me in a little closet with a headset on. And that was it. So I went and found sheets of old expireds for sale by owners, like sheets. Like if anybody's ever come in here for call days, and we have the sheets of leads lined up, it was literally taking a stack of those sheets with a headset and just next, dialing 300 to 500 numbers a day to talk to 30, 40 people a day. You have to dial numbers to get people to answer. So 300, 500 calls to 30, 40 conversations a day. Now, conversations mean 80% cursed me out and hung up. You build thick skin. To setting 8 to 10 listing appointments per week. So when somebody says, I don't think expireds and for sale by owners work, That simply means you haven't made enough phone calls to try it long enough for it to work. My first 30 days, there was 0 appointments. My first 30 days was smiling and dialing to just mess up and hang up on people before they hung up on me. Like I literally did. I hung up on people. Actually, like no lie. My conversation sounded like this. Like, ring.
Hello?
Hi, Zach.
Yes, hi.
Hi, Zach. Hi. My name is Alana. I'm with Keller Williams Legacy. I'm an agent. So I see you want to sell a house. Do you still want to sell a house? Use a lot of choice words to me, but not as just say beep 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 beep. Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Bye. Like, okay. So I actually hung up on more people than hung up on me in the beginning because I didn't know what to say. But over weeks and practice and weeks and practice, after 30 days of just a whole lot of nothing, I had 2 choices to make. What were my 2 choices? Continue or give up and try something new. And then that doesn't work, and then try something new. And then that doesn't work, and then try something new. Okay. So I was like, you know what? I know this works. It's been proven to work. My best friend showed me it works. So I know it works. And if she can do it, I know I can do it. I was her trainer back in the day. So I practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced with anybody I can find, husband, best friend, people not real estate, random people just out there, just to finally start having it work. So first 30 days, 0 appointments. Next 30 days, about 2-3 appointments that month. Next 30 days, about 4 to 6 appointments that month. Then all of a sudden it was like, bam, appointment, every single day. Every single day. If I had a day with no appointments, the next day I landed 3. I say all that to say you're going to hear some things in this video that I'm going to play. I want you to take notes because at the end I'm going to ask you what are 1 to 2 things that you wrote down on your paper, okay, that you are going to put in your conversations. You're going to implement. All right. So take notes because I'm going to ask everybody this question. All right. And at the end, we'll open it up for some Q&A, share a few best practices on some numbers, some measurements that you can go off of for calling expireds. And then I'll also share some ways to find expireds. If you want to, if you hear this, you're like, this is what I want to go after. I'll share some ways that you can find them in this industry that are easier than just going on Bright MLS and sitting there for hours on end trying to locate numbers. Okay. And then we have a guest speaker who's gonna give us another best practice for, what do you think, about 10 minutes? 10 minutes? Okay. All right. Questions before we get started? No? All right. So for those just showing up, we're watching a video from one of the best of the best of the best. By the way, when I say that, we were just in Austin, Texas for Keller Williams Mega Camp, which is the 2nd largest real estate event that Keller Williams holds. There's about 6,000 to 7,000 agents there nationwide. And Anna was on stage by herself being interviewed by Gary Keller and Jason Abrams, Director of Innovations, and the CEO of the company. So that's who you're hearing. Okay. There might be a part where I fast forward a little bit because she recorded this for a class that she teaches, not for me. But because she's in Africa right now on a safari, I am filling in for her classes that she's teaching nationwide a little bit. So I got access to the recording. I cannot send it to anybody because I am not allowed. It's owned by Keller Williams International. But I'm going to play it in here for you guys. So nobody record this, even though I'm recording this. And no, this won't go on our YouTube channel because it can't. I'm just going to send this to a few people if they want. All right. So let's go ahead and play
to
this.
discuss, and then also Coach Alana can field.
Oop, hold on. I need to shut off something. What am I going to shut off? Let's try shutting. Oh, no. I clicked a button. Hold up. Hold up. Okay, Zoom, can you see the screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes.
All right, hold
Yeah.
on. I need to play with it's coming off out of two volume things, so I need to make sure you can hear it on the computer versus. Okay, so hold on. This is always fun playing videos on Zoom.
Any questions that you have? So
All right, that's what it is. All right. All right, let me try it again. All right, when it starts on Zoom, just give me a thumbs up. Or just be like, yep, really quickly if you can hear it.
today we're going to be talking about tracking. Tracking is something that I truly used to hate. And yes, I did just say that. I'm a maps coach. I live in lead generation, lead conversion. I truly used to despise tracking. So the goal today is to teach you how to track, but also why to track and how to interpret your numbers. My hope is that at the end of today's training, you see how tracking personally is going to help you in your business and especially with your personal income goals. So whether you've ever tracked before, or maybe you are a pro at tracking, I do believe today's content will be very powerful for you. We're also going to be talking about what are common conversion metrics, and I'm going to put some definitions around those. So make sure you have your notes ready from the client portal session 4.
Again, she's teaching
And we'll go
class.
ahead and jump in. So today's objectives. So first we're going to talk about why tracking matters. Then we're going to talk about benchmarks to hit, and then I will give you the tracking systems. So why does tracking matter? Well, let's talk about that for just a minute. So you can actually see on my TV screen right there, there's actually a pretty cool picture of camping. And in fact, let me share with you a picture from my phone. And I'm going to make a point about why tracking matters. So here's a picture of somewhere that I just went hiking about 2 weeks ago. And in this picture, there's a beautiful waterfall. It's a little hard to tell, but you can actually get down into the water there and go swimming. It's a really beautiful spot.
Hold on. I'm going to pause that a second because this is not the start of the right video. Just give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Y'all get to see me fumble. Ah, that would be why, because she has 2 videos and I clicked on the wrong one. Ah, take 2, everybody.
But tracking is important.
Tracking is important, and I have not, that class I'm teaching tomorrow for her. So after I teach that, depending on, I haven't watched it. So depending on the message, that might be one that I replay in here for you guys. But let's get on the actual topic of expires for sale by owners, shall we? That was a teaser. Everybody should track their expires and for sale by owners. Wrong passcode. Why are you the wrong passcode? Copy. Y'all get to see me fumble with the computer. This is super fun. Better. Thanks, Kirsten. She said, better you than me. That's funny. That was really funny.
That's usually what happens today.
She said, better you than me. That was really funny. Okay. Here we go again. And play.
Every single person you call has a house to sell. That is why these are some of my absolute favorites. So I do want to encourage you real quick, if you have any hesitation around calling for sale by owners or expireds, know that I get that. I really, truly do. I remember these 2 sources for me, particularly, I would physically get sick to my stomach, and I'm not being funny here. I literally got sick to my stomach. I felt anxious. I felt like I didn't know how to handle it. And by doing it, and that's a key, by actually doing it, they became 2 of my favorite lead sources. So just recognize, if you haven't done it before, you're not good at it yet. That's okay. It doesn't mean you can't become good at it. A friend of mine asked me, I was taking a pickleball class, which makes me feel kind of old, but he said, hey, how'd you like pickleball? And I said, well, I didn't. I didn't really like the class. And he's like, well, yeah, because I know you and you like to be good at things and you're not going to be good after one class. You have to keep going. And I thought, well, gosh, if that's not what we talk about here. So just know if you've never called them and this feels a little intimidating to you, that is normal. And one of the best ways to get comfortable is to just do it. And I guarantee you, you will come to love them. Maybe at a different degree. Some of us might love them more than others, but as you set appointments, you will come to see what an excellent lead source this is. Expires and FSBOs are one of my favorite things about today's market. You know, as the market has shifted, if you've been in real estate in the last 2 or 3 years, it was much more a seller's market, especially in 2020. Hard to believe that was 3 years ago now. And I'm actually thrilled that the market has shifted because now sellers recognize that they need our help. And that just wasn't the case 2 or 3 years ago. They were selling literally just by sticking a sign in the yard. Houses were selling like crazy. That's just not true. And that creates an opportunity for us. So that's something I'm very excited about today's market. So as we go, take notes. Also, because I'm going to be giving you a lot of dialogue today, I recommend that in your notes, you document what time something was said if you want to come back to it. So if we're 15 minutes in, put in your notes 15 minutes next to whatever note you're taking. And that will remind you to come back and play starting at the 15-minute mark. So I do recommend doing that for today and really any class. So one quick housekeeping I want to do. This is in all of our material, but I do want to highlight it for today especially. We are talking about calling expireds and for sale by owners, and do make sure you're careful in how you call them. One thing you'll notice is today we are not discussing how you call them, meaning we're not talking about dialers, we're not talking about anything along those lines. And that is because dialers have caused a lot of legal problems for people. So we do not ever recommend that you use a dialer. What we do recommend is that you talk with your local region, talk with a local broker. Honestly, best thing, talk to a local attorney and ask what are the laws around dialer use in our area. So that's a common question that comes up. Obviously, I'm not with you live today. This is a recording. Kind of weird talking to you without you actually here. I miss you. But normally that's a question people ask me. And so I'm just assuming you might be asking. And I wanted to address that. So Alana could probably speak more to that in the chat box or at the end of the recording. We will have time for Q&A, but just check with a local attorney about the use of dialer in your area. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And then also do not leave pre-recorded voicemails. It's a common thing people like to do with these lead sources specifically. And that is actually also causing legal problems. So here's what you do. And this is what I did. Hand dial people and leave a voicemail with your mouth. It works pretty good. And when you're intentional and when you know your dialogues, you really don't need to talk to endless amounts of people to be successful. So before we jump in, I do want to remind you back in session 1, we talked about the foundational order of a conversation. And before I explain expireds and FSBOs, I want to remind you it's exactly the same thing. So the first thing we talk about is motivation. Type in the chat box, how many minutes do we spend on motivation?
How many minutes?
I'm going to give you a minute to type in.
Say it again. Yep.
Can y'all hear
3
the
minutes.
thunder while you're typing in?
3
It's a little
minutes.
scary outside. Just say. Okay, hopefully you typed in 3 minutes. 3 minutes. So that's how long we spend digging for motivation, 3 minutes. And then our transition statement is, well, great. Let's see what we need to do to make that happen. Then we pre-qualify people. And remember, pre-qualify is all the logical stuff. So motivation is the emotional part. Pre-qualify is the logical part. And again, you have a handout in session 1 for a seller info sheet and a buyer sheet. So today's seller would be the one that would apply. Just read the pre-qual questions. That's it. The reason pre-qualify is in parentheses is if they are no longer motivated to move, you will skip pre-qualify. There's no reason to pre-qualify someone if they are just not moving. It would be a waste of time. For everyone we talk to, and that is why there are 2 stars next to this one, for everyone we talk to, unless they say, take me off your list, don't call me again, or some version of that, every single person we talk to, we are going to assign a next step. So I might say our next step is to stay in touch, or your next step is to find out what you owe on your home. Your next step is to meet with me, whatever would be appropriate. And then lastly, assign a deadline. Assign a deadline. And that would be your next step is to meet with me, and then you would pick a time. Or it might be your next step is to find out what you owe on your mortgage. By when could you do that? Remember that deadline needs to be within how soon? type in the chat box.
How soon?
There's a magic window for how soon things need to happen when we give deadlines.
Yep.
And this applies for action
Sooner.
steps as well as actually meeting with us. And if you typed in 48 hours, you would be correct. So we do want to have them do that within 48 hours. So remember, we got to know how to ask quality questions.
Hey, really quick. Why is it 48-hour deadline max? By the way, that's max for something, right? Finding out what they owe in their house. We want to give them max 48 hours. Deadline of I'm talking to them today, and the next step is for me to come out and set an appointment. The appointment's within 48 hours. Whatever other things we need to do, deadline is within 48 hours. Talking to their significant other to see, you know, if tomorrow at 5 works for them. They have 24 hours. Why 48 hours max? What do you think?
As time goes by, number one, you have to set a deadline or else, so they know that there's a deadline. Number two,
Right.
though, you let someone sit even when you work with them, you find this out later, right? Even when you did a great job, if you don't talk to them for a year, guess what? They're using someone else. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days out of mind. Just
Out of mind. Yep. So number one, giving a deadline, because if not, they're not going to do anything that you just ask, and there's no actual follow-up, proper follow-up, right? Because people get busy in life. So if you don't say, hey, do this by tomorrow, I'm going to call you at 4 o'clock. The next step is this by noon. The next step is this by, you know, I'll follow up with you tomorrow at 6 because you said you're getting home at 5:30. So number one, give me a deadline to have proper follow-up and have them know what to do and when. But also, great point, Jerry, it's also because each day, oh, great, I love that you just said that. So, hey, can you pull what you owe in your home and, you know, talk to your significant other, and I'll just get back to you in like a week or two. I will guarantee you 99.9% of the time, another agent is swooping in and getting that listing. So when you do follow up with them, their comment back to their phone call to you is, oh my God, yeah, thank you so much, Rochelle, for following up with me. We just signed with another agent. We're so excited. You're like, that's great. Wonderful. Shit. Okay. So 48 hours max.
And so I will share some with you that I personally like for expireds and for sale by owners in just a minute. Before we do that though, let's talk about mindset around calling these lead sources. So remember, who is an expired? First of all, don't ever say expired to an expired. It sounds like a dead person. Not to be crass or whatever. But I was telling my family over dinner one night years ago that I had called expireds, and no joke, they were like, it sounds like what you're saying is you call dead people. So what do you mean? So we have to remember that expireds, that's an internal term of real estate to us as realtors. Do any of you have someone in your life who has a job outside of your industry and they come home and talk from work and you're like, I don't know, they're using all these acronyms, I don't know what they're talking about. Well, expireds is the case for us. So really what they are, what I would say to a client is came off the market. I saw your house came off the market versus I saw your house expired. So I saw your house came off the market. Well, who are they? Well, they're an interested person. That's the thing we have to remember. They are an interested person because their house was listed yesterday or recently, depending on how far back you're going in calling expireds. So this is someone who has an interest in selling a home. Otherwise, their house wouldn't have even been listed in the first place, or they would have withdrawn. So if they expired yesterday or last week, the thing that I want you to remember is had they had a good offer, they would have gone under contract. The thing is, they may sound discouraged. They may sound defeated or disinterested. Haven't we all done that? Haven't we all had a situation not work out the way we wanted and we say things like, it's fine, it's really fine. We're going to talk more about that in just a minute. But the biggest thing in calling expireds is your mindset. If your mindset is this is an interested person that has a desire to sell a home, that's going to change the way that you're going to show up in this interaction. So just don't be distracted if they sound discouraged, defeated, or disinterested. That's actually kind of to be expected. Wouldn't you be discouraged if your house just came off the market after 3 or 6 months, however long that listing agreement was? I mean, I think I would be discouraged, you know, It's no different than if you're going to the gym constantly and not seeing any progress, like, it's kind of discouraging. And so don't be surprised if they sound that way, but remember, they are interested, even if they sound that way. So what's actually going on? There's actually 3 psychological terms for what you're probably hearing when you call expireds. The first one is rationalizing. So this would be, and let me take this down so we can see each other. Rationalizing would be just like, say, okay, I'm gonna give you a funny analogy, okay? I will tie this back to real estate, just stay with me. But let's say that it's Thanksgiving and you are talking to your 16-year-old niece at the table for a Thanksgiving dinner. And you find out in this conversation that she just broke up with her boyfriend of 2 years, 14 to 16. It's pretty impressive. And she's just irritated. You know, the breakup just happened and she's like, oh, he's so annoying. His jokes are stupid. And honestly, I didn't really like his family anyway. So it's fine. It's totally fine. I'm good. Well, I think we can all know in this example, she's actually probably really hurting. But what she's saying is, I'm fine. It's all fine. You know, and here's why it's a good thing that it did not work out. Well, we have to understand that our expireds are probably going to do the same thing. So don't be surprised if you hear things like, I think it's the market. It's the market. I mean, that's what's going on. Or, oh yeah, I mean, I think our realtor just needs more time, which by the way, you do quickly ask them. In a minute, I'll give you an opener, but in the opener, it asks, are you off the market? So we're not going to talk to people that are signed with a realtor. But if their agreement has expired, you might hear them try to rationalize working with their previous realtor and going back and signing another agreement. That's called rationalizing, and it just doesn't make sense. So let's go back to the niece example at Thanksgiving dinner, upset about breaking up with her boyfriend. And imagine if when she's like, oh, he's so rude, I don't like his family, I don't like his jokes, you know, whatever. In that moment, if you looked at her and said, hey, when are you going to get back together with your boyfriend? How do you think she would respond to you? Use the chat box here. How would that come across? If you just broke up with someone, and I'm sorry for any of you, this is your real life, and I'm touching on a sensitive subject. I do apologize. Hopefully you can find some humor in this. Excuse me. But if you looked at her when she's in the middle of explaining why it didn't work out, and it's a good thing, and you said, well, when are you gonna get back together with him? She's probably gonna look at you like, I mean, did you not just hear what I just said? I just said, he's rude. I don't like his family. His jokes are dumb. I mean, are you not listening to me? It's a disconnect, right? And I find that's what a lot of agents do. An expired picks up the phone and they say they're no longer interested. It's the market, whatever. And a lot of times people respond with, well, when are you going to hire me? When are you going to do something? And it creates this emotional disconnect. So what would be better is to ask the niece, hey, I'm curious, you know, I know that you just broke up with him. Sounds like you're pretty irritated with him today. Not a big fan. I am curious though, you dated the guy for 2 years. What made you want to date him for 2 years? Like, go back to the day that you said yes to dating him and you went out for the first time. What made you say yes back then? And I think you all can see where I'm going with this. But she'll probably start crying in the mashed potatoes over Thanksgiving dinner and saying things like, well, he was really nice and he carried my books for me. And I love his friends, and his mom is actually really great. And, you know, suddenly she's crying. And it's because we emotionally took her back to the day that she originally was excited. And that's exactly what we need to do with our expireds. So once she's reiterating and reminding herself why she liked him in the first place, now it is much easier to have the conversation around, do you want to get back together with him? Because she just emotionally went back to the positive place. And that's exactly what we want to do with our expireds. So just know when they are rationalizing, kind of hear past that. I'm not saying ignore them. Maybe they really did change their mind for a very legit reason. But again, they probably would have withdrawn, not expired. So you really have to listen and understand that just because they're saying doesn't mean it's what they actually want deep down. You got to ask good questions. So that's what rationalizing is. The other one could be emotional transference. I ran into this a lot. And that's where, I mean, have you ever heard that analogy where somebody had a bad day at work and they go home and they yell at the dog? You know, that's emotional transference. The dog didn't do anything. They're just upset. you know, and we've all had days. I've done that. I'm not proud of it. You've done that, I'm sure, because you're a human. We all do this at various times. Not saying it's a good thing, but I'm saying it's a human thing. And so we've all had days where we're upset about something and we take that out on the next person. Or have you ever been talking to customer service and the person who picked up the phone, they're not the person you were talking to for 30 minutes before you got transferred. But the new person that's on the line gets all of your frustration because you've just been on the phone with someone else for 30 minutes and then they couldn't help you. You're not actually mad at the person who just picked up the phone. You're just irritated overall, but you're taking it out on that person. That's called emotional transference. So this could sound like, and this is very normal because I've called expires for years. Again, they're one of my favorite sources. This is where they might say, well, where were you when my house was listed? You know, or why didn't you bring buyers by? Or they're just mad in general. You know, I hate real estate, you know, I hate realtors, whatever it could be. Some of these people, if you call them 2 days later, totally different personality showing up because they're past that frustrating moment. And so just remember, unless they say don't call them again or some version of that, know that someone who might be very angry at you today could be very kind to you in 2 days. I saw that all the time. I didn't know that until I just did it. So again, you might just have to do it and you'll get the experience. So just don't take it personally. That's the idea there. And then reaction formation, that's when maybe you're at a funeral and your uncle probably should be crying or upset and instead they're making jokes. So it's almost like an inappropriate emotional reaction to something that's actually sad. It's a coping mechanism. So someone might be like, oh yeah, it's fine. I mean, I wasn't going to need to move anyway. And everything's totally fine. In fact, I think it's better. That's kind of rationalizing, but really also reaction formation. It's really, they should probably be upset and bummed, and they're instead like, yeah, it's great, everything's fine. And that would just be like the uncle at the funeral who's cracking jokes versus being sad, which being sad is the more appropriate reaction at a funeral. Not that you can't ever laugh at a funeral, but you guys get what I'm saying. Okay, so I felt like it was really important to spend time on mindset because that is going to be a big determining factor in how you handle these calls. You know, if you call them assuming, well, they're not going to be interested, you're not going to set as many appointments. I'm just telling you that right now. But if you call them and know, kind of no matter what they say, I can likely assume that underneath all of this, they are interested. They might say something different. And again, if they say, don't call me, take me off the list, you need to respect that. But if they express disinterest, it's probably just not true. All right, so let's get into how you actually call them. So again, the key here is to get them back emotionally to the day they originally listed their house. Needed to take a drink. Okay.
This
All
is
right.
where you take out a pen and take
Mostly take them back to the day they originally
Right
listed,
here.
just like the analogy I gave you with the niece. Okay. So the way that you're going to do that is the opening call pattern, which we did or will do deeper in session 5. So if you just started this program August 2nd, which half of you watching this did, just know that session 5, we're going to do a very deep dive on opening the call. So hang tight. And if you are in the other session on, you're like session 12 or 13 in, go back and watch session 5 because we did a deep dive. Okay, so session 5 has the deep dive on opening the call, but here's how you do it for expireds. So the first thing you're going to do is your name and then their name. So that might sound like, hey, Alana, it's Anna. Something like that. Thank you so much for taking my call. I am calling you because, now on other lead sources, we say, I'm calling you because you were on our website, or I'm calling you because your sister said you might be thinking of moving. In this case, we're going to say, I'm calling because I see your home came off the market. Is that correct? Now, if you've taken a class with me for 2 seconds, you know I'm not a big fan of closed questions, especially out of the gate on a call. However, this is expireds, and it is incredibly important that we make sure they are no longer listed with an agent. So sometimes you'll ask this question and they'll say, what? I'm off the market. And in that case, I usually like to tell them, why don't you check with the agent you were listed with? But that's what it looks like to me. It looks like your home came off the market today. Did they communicate that to you? And a lot of times they're like, no, I didn't know that. In which case that is actually telling us part of the picture for why they probably expired. It sounds like they have an agent that doesn't communicate. So that could be part of it. I'm not going to say that to them. But what I would say is, okay, why don't you double check? I would love to help you, but I do want to make sure you are actually off the market so that I'm talking to you appropriately, okay? Most of them will know. The overwhelming majority of them will know, yes, I did come off the market today. In which case you'll say, okay, great, we've helped a lot of people in your shoes. And then question 5, I'm curious, what made you want to sell your home back when you originally listed? I'm not asking what makes you want to sell your home today, which is normally what I would do. That's how you would normally open most calls, most lead sources. That's how you open it. What makes you want to move? What makes you want to sell? What makes you want to buy? But again, I've just called enough expireds to know overwhelmingly they say things like, I'm not interested, I've changed my mind. And so I'm just going to hit it right out of the gate, taking them back several months ago when they originally listed. Now, if you can see the listing and you know they listed 6 months ago, say when you listed your home 6 months ago. If it was 3 months ago, when you listed your home 3 months ago. But don't worry about figuring all that out. You can also just say, what made you want to sell your home back when you originally listed? Or back then. Don't overthink this, okay? So again, what this would sound like is, hey, Alana, it's Anna, calling from the Haro Group, Keller Williams. Hey, thank you so much for taking my call today. I'm calling because I see your home just came off the market. Is that correct? Okay, great. We've helped a lot of people in your shoes. I'm curious, what made you want to sell your home back 6 months ago? Now, in an ideal situation, they'll engage and start talking to you. But let's talk through if they don't do that. A lot of times they'll say things like, well, we were going to downsize, but I think the market has shifted and we're just going to wait. Or, well, yeah, we did, but we're going to hold off. That is quite common, actually. So here's what you're going to do. If they say anything like, we want to wait, I think it's the market, we changed our minds, anything like that at all, anything along those lines, then what you're going to do is basically just ask the question again after acknowledging what they just said. So that could sound like, I totally hear you. I am curious though, what made you want to list back then? So it's almost like just agree with them, like, yeah, I hear you. I hear what you're saying about the market. I totally get it. I'm curious though, what made you want to list back then? And in my experience, and you're just going to have to trust my experience when I share this with you, they usually engage with you. I find they either very quickly end the conversation or they eventually engage. I will put more up on the slide, but real quick, I want to share with you, I was shadowing a team the other day and we were listening to recorded calls. And one of the agents there called an expired listing. And by the way, he was new to calling expired, so I was super proud of him. So he called expireds, and the first 4 questions he asked were closed. Are you still interested? I don't remember the others, but they were closed questions. It didn't sound so good, and the client said they were not looking to move anymore. Then his 5th question was open about motivation. And the whole team, I didn't even have to say anything. The whole team, as we listened to this recorded call, they pointed out that whole call changed as soon as he was asked an open-ended question about motivation. By the way, that person set an appointment with the agent. It was about a 20-minute call. They went from, I'm not interested, to setting an appointment, and they were an expired lead. So when I say just kind of go with it, if they're like, yeah, well, we wanted to, but we changed our mind. Okay, yeah, I totally hear you. I am curious though, what made you want to list back then? Another option could be, hey, I hear that perspective, or I understand that perspective. I'm curious though, for whenever you're ready, what made you want to sell in the first place? So that's another option. So that might be someone who says, yeah, well, we're just going to wait a couple months. I don't know. I don't really know what we're going to do. We're just going to kind of wait. Remember, they expired. They would have sold if they had a contract. They're just rationalizing. You got to remember that. So again, hey, I can understand that perspective. I'm curious though, for whenever you're ready, what made you want to sell in the first place? And for each of these, by the way, once they answer you, dig 3 deep. And we covered that in session 1. So if they're like, yeah, well, we were going to downsize. Okay, great. What makes you want to downsize? Well, we just wanted to save some money. Okay, what would saving money do for you? So I'm not going to go into how to dig deep right now, simply because we covered that very thoroughly in session 1, but just that's what you would do. So once they start engaging, you're going to then get into the 3 deep motivation. And the other way that you could word this, I like this one too. And I've used all 3 of these depending on the conversation. I might say, hey, I hear you. I'm assuming waiting is plan B since you did just have your house listed. What was plan A? And then dig 3 deep. Okay. And then when they're done, after 3 minutes, remember 3 minutes to get motivation. So right here, after you dig in your notes, you could put dig 3 deep, spend 3 minutes. Then the follow-up question is, hey, if we could make plan A happen for you, would you want to explore that? And so I find that tone of voice, by the way, is just as important as the words you say. I like to just be very curious. Hey, I'm assuming waiting is plan B since you had your house listed. What was plan A? And then that tonality, hey, if we could still make plan A happen for you, would you want to explore it? Sounded like that was really important to you. So again, you've got all that here. And I would recommend come back and watch this section of the recording. These are some really good lines. And I'm telling you, using this, I would set 1 out of about 8 to 10 expireds. And that was very typical. It got to be, if it's the end of the day and I'm down an appointment, let me just call expireds. This stuff really, really works. Now, once you have that motivation, you're really just using the seller sheet from session 1. They're a seller. So don't get all in your head that you need this whole different method because they're an expired. They're just sellers. They're just sellers. So you're going to open it up differently, which is what's on these slides. But your mindset needs to be that even if they don't sound motivated, they probably are, but really they're just a seller. So don't make it all weird. Okay, so just use the seller sheet from session 1. You know, you may need to share some relevant data. So for example, our team, this is a true story. We had an expired listing that came to us from another agent. By the way, the first time she talked to me, she was quite mean. And then we essentially over time got her to list with us about a week later. So she went from being mean to listing with us about a week later. And again, it was just knowing she's not mad at us, she's just mad. I don't blame her. I really don't blame her, actually. She was disappointed because her realtor didn't take care of her. I get it. And so anyway, this was a listing that we had expired from another team. We took it on, true story. We raised the price and sold it in under 24 hours. So an expired listing that had not sold, we raised the price and sold it in 24 hours. And a lot of that had to do with marketing. A huge part of it was quality pictures. The previous agent had used a cell phone. We used professional pictures. And then we also staged the house. So staging, huge, made the rooms look bigger, the appropriate pictures, and then marketing. Lost my train of thought for a minute. All right, so when I'm talking to an expired now, that would be relevant data that I might share. So if they're a little skeptical, I might just say, hey, you know what, Alana? I just want you to know, we just had someone else come to us whose house expired or came off the market just like yours. And we raised the price and sold that thing in 24 hours. Now, I'm not saying that that's necessarily what we're going to do to your house, but I just want you to know, we know how to sell houses that didn't sell the first time. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, Anna, I'm a single agent. I've never sold a house that expired. Well, that's okay. You're part of a brokerage. So Keller Williams people, talk to others in the market center. That is your network. So find a story that you can share. And that story I just shared with you, I use it all the time. Rinse and repeat. I use it all the time talking to first sale by owners because it worked and it was true. So find it relevant data. Don't share so much that they don't need to meet with you. You know, save some information for the appointment. In that example I just gave, I didn't tell the lead how we raised to the price and sold it in 24 hours. I just gave the story, and then what I would say is when we meet together, we'll explain more about that. So, hey, Alana, I just want you to know we had someone come to us whose house came off the market. We actually raised the price and sold it in 24 hours, which shows we know how to sell houses that didn't sell the first time. We'll explain more of that process when we get together and then just move on. But that can infuse some hope to let them know like they do know what they're doing. Okay. And it just finds some data. It could be how many homes you've sold this year or how many homes your brokerage has sold this year. Don't be afraid to lean on the data of your brokerage, especially if you're new or you've never worked with an expired. If you've sold a house, you know how to sell an expired. They're just a house to sell. There are some additional questions I personally like to ask expireds because it does give a peek into why their home may not have sold, and that's important. So I do like to ask, how many showings did you have? I also like to ask, what kind of feedback did you get? You know, if they've had no showings, that probably tells me something about marketing or maybe pricing. I'm not going to comment on it, but I'm just going to ask. So how many showings did you have? What kind of feedback did you get? I had someone once, I remember this so clearly, he's like, yeah, everyone who came through said our fixtures are outdated, I don't think they are. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I need to update some fixtures. It's usually either pictures, staging, marketing, it could also be pricing. It could be a lot of things, and that's what will get determined in the actual appointment. The other thing I like to ask is how many offers did you receive? And then what do you think caused your house not to sell best you can tell? And I like to ask it that way so they don't feel bad if they're clueless. Just, you know, hey, if you had to take a guess, what do you think made your house not sell? Because that's good information for us. You know, if they say everyone who came by said it was overpriced, well, then it's probably overpriced. You know, that's something I need to prepare for the appointment. If I'm studying for an agent, I need to let them know, hey, they told me everyone who came through before said it was overpriced. So you might want to practice the pricing conversation. All right. So those are some questions that you can ask in addition to expireds. In general, if they go 2 weeks without any showings, or if they have 10 showings and no offers, that's usually a sign that they are overpriced. I wouldn't go into that on the phone or anything. That's just intel for you, just so you know how to think about expireds. So that's usually the case. So 2 weeks, no showings, or 10 showings, no offers. Usually it's a pricing issue. And again, how many offers did you receive? Things like that. It's just going to help us prepare for that appointment. And again, remember, when you're on the appointment setting side, all you're doing is asking questions. You are not giving your opinion. You are not telling them what you think their house is worth. None of that. That's what the appointment's for. So if they ask questions, just say, that's a really good question. We're going to do research before we meet, and then we'll talk about that in person after I've done some research. And for expireds especially, I would add in there, I want to take really good care of you and give you a better experience than last time. And I need to do research before I answer your questions. But I will answer that when we meet, or the agent won't answer that when you guys meet. And they really appreciate that. So now let's talk about for sale by owners. Now, one reason I spent a good bit of time on expireds is because a lot of for sale by owners were expireds. Now, that's not always true. So just know it's not always the case. But a lot of times when I just know from calling expireds, or sorry, calling for sale by owners, they would say, well, the reason I'm for sale by owner is my last agent, blah, blah, blah. And then you just get this whole thing. So I just learned a lot of for sale by owners were expireds. And so that same mindset that I shared with you is usually same applicable to for sale by owners. What I'm about to share with you worked for, I would set one appointment out of 3 pickups. And I don't mean an appointment to preview the house. I don't mean, hey, let me just stop by and drop something off. I mean, 1 out of 3 would set an appointment knowing we are meeting to list your house potentially. Okay, so this works, and I'm going to ask you to just embrace what I'm sharing and trust that it works. I wouldn't give it to you if it didn't work. So remember, we always got to get motivation first. However, with for sale by owners, it's going to take a little bit longer, and I'll show you why. The key to the opener, I need to get them talking about why they love their house. It's going to sound like I'm pre-qualifying them, but I'm not. I'm not. What I'm wanting to do is get them talking about why they love their house, so that I can then say, well, what makes you want to move? It sounds like a great place, which is really motivation. So think of it this way. If I take down the screen real quick, most of the time motivation takes this long. For FSBOs, it takes this long. Okay, because I've got to, I just learned if I started a FSBO call out of the gate, what makes you want to move? They would usually say, why do you need to know that? Just, do you have a buyer or do you not have a buyer? That's usually what they would say. But when I took the approach, let me put it back up on the screen. When I took this approach, it worked. So, you know, hello, Alana, this is Anna from the Harvard Group Keller Williams. Hey, thank you for taking my call. I'm calling because I currently am working with 2 active buyers, and I see you have a house for sale. If you're a team, you might say, hey, we are working with 30 active buyers. So just make sure you use accurate numbers here, and then plug them in. So I'm calling you because I'm currently working with 6 active buyers, and I see you have a house for sale. I would love to see if it's a good fit for any of our buyers. So tell me about your home. And the goal here is to just get them talking about why they love their home. Now, sometimes they will say things like, look at the ad online. Hello. they do. I know this because I called them. I'll talk about how to handle that in a minute. But the idea here is get them talking about why they love their home. Because if you look here, the goal is for us to say, wow, it sounds like a great place. What makes you want to move? So even though I'm saying, tell me about your home, that sounds kind of seller pre-qualified, like, right? That's actually not the goal here. The goal is to just get them spilling the beans about why they love their house so that I can then ask about their motivation. The other thing I want to mention here is sometimes they do say, hey, the ad is online, just look at the ad. And what I like to say, so you might want to put a timestamp in your notes, because this would be good to listen to again. But if they're like, just look at the ad, it's online. What I like to say is, I do see the ad online. There are actually a lot of homes in the area similar to yours. So let's just say I was having coffee with one of my buyers and I wanted to convince them to buy your house over all of the other houses. What would I tell them? And that works. I'm telling you, that works great. Because basically you're saying, I'm on your side, I want to sell your house. Like, what would I tell them? And usually they start saying things like, it has great trees, you know, big mature trees, the neighbors are awesome, great school district. We just totally renovated the house, it has a pool, stuff like that. Which is why then you can say, wow, sounds like a great place, what makes you want to move? So the whole goal is to get them talking about why they love the house. Now, once they do that, dig 3 deep. And now you're just in a normal conversation. This is just motivation. Don't get all in your head about it. They're a seller. Just dig for motivation. So what makes you want to downsize? What would that do for your family? Same thing that we taught in session 1. Now the transition, once they've told you their motivation, how do you start talking to them about listing the house? Okay, so here's the transition. So what I'm going to do, Alana, is inform our buyers or the buyer agents, if you're on a team. What I'm going to do is inform our buyer agents about this home to see if it's a good fit for any of our buyers. I have to ask though, usually you can make more money by officially listing it with an agent. What made you decide to do for sale by owner versus listing? By the way, make sure you tell your buyer agents, don't say something and then not follow through. Be honest. So make sure you tell your buyers, tell your buyers agents about it. But yeah, ask them, hey, I have to ask though, usually you make more money. What made you list on your own? When they're skeptical, my favorite thing is the auction analogy. So here's the analysis, and write it down. Write the timestamp down, because this is a beautiful analogy. So Alana, let's just say that you and I decide to go to 2 auctions. The auctions are across the street from each other and they have all the same items, exactly the same identical auction. One auction though has 2 people at it, and the other auction has 200 people at it. Which auction is going to make more money? And guys, they always say the one with 200. If they answer you differently, they zoned out, just re-ask their question. So which one will make more money? They say the one with 200. Okay, what made you say the one with 200? And they say, well, more people equals more money. And in my experience, they usually start laughing a little bit like, oh, yeah, I see your point. So in the same way, when we list your home, we'll get it in front of more people than you can on your own. You said you have it on 2 websites and our marketing is much stronger and powerful. So more money will come from more people, just like you just said. And then my favorite way to set an appointment is to just say, hey, you have a house to sell and we know buyers. Wouldn't it make sense to meet to help you sell this home? And that usually will get the appointment. So the most important thing to remember is find your motivation. You've got to dig 3 deep into motivation, and go back to watch session 1 if you need help remembering how to do that. We spend a lot of time in session 1 learning how to dig deep into motivation. So action steps, the regular curriculum.
All right. She just goes off and talks about her next classes, which is on tracking. Okay. Typically, I don't like playing a 30-minute recording, but I was watching that when I did that recording for another group. I was like, oh, this is kind of gold right here. So I was like, here's another voice for all of you. So what'd you get? What'd you take away? What are things you wrote down? What are things like, oh, wow, okay. I like that. Back here?
Something when I felt like buyers, I really had the mindset to like try to get straight to the point, so you didn't waste your time. So to say like you didn't want to like something. So I sort of kind of get to the point and got me protected by it. But hearing the bits, like actually break it down into like mindset, basic first, it's like all right, now I can get it. You know how that's useful.
Absolutely. And by the way, so I'm going to repeat that on Zoom. So what was said was, usually when calling for sell by owners, You just got straight to the point. Hi, I'm Alana. I'm with Keller Williams Legacy. I'm calling to sell your house. Now you probably say it a little more eloquently than that, but let's just get straight to the point, right? Where what you wrote down just now is actually having a conversation with them. I'm going to use the words, even though you didn't use them, showing you care, right? So not sales, taking the sales part out of it, and actually spending a few minutes on getting the motivation, learning about the house to get your foot in the door. Love that. Love that. Now what you do, now here's the thing, you have to implement that, but can you implement that just once? Can you get on the phone today, call for sale by owner and try it once? Why? They're shaking their head no. Why? Because one time you don't know if it's going to work, right? You have to do it and then do it again. And then I said 30 days, 0 appointments to finally start having success, right? Okay, what else? Other takeaways? Someone on Zoom. Dig deep. Yes, I love that, Kim. Dig deep. Here's the thing with digging deep. How many minutes? For expireds, how many minutes? 3. How many minutes for talking to a buyer who wants to buy a house? Don't overthink it. 3. How many minutes for every single possible minus for sale by owner lead you can come across? And actually also for sale by owner when you get to the motivation part, how many minutes? It doesn't change. It doesn't, we overthink it. We get in our own way. Oh my God, okay, I need to put all that to the side. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, let me just figure this whole thing out again for these expired leads, right? A seller is a seller is a seller. A buyer is a buyer is a buyer. Who cares the source? Right? All right. What else? What else we get?
Digging deep into like what their original plan was and then what their second plan would be, try to figure out where you can fit in there pretty much and get more of their motivation.
Yeah. Digging deep into their original plan. What was it? Right? What was their plan A? Right? What did that look like? To then see how you can help them. That's the whole thing, right? We're here to help people. So I want to share a really quick story about my very first expired listing I ever landed. Well, let me rephrase that. I ever set the appointment for, could have taken, decided not to take, but I'll tell you why. So I chose not to take it. You choose, right? Just because you set the appointment doesn't mean you're getting a listing, because you're both interviewing each other. So this was 2 months in, because again, I said 30 days, no appointments. 2 months in, finally land an expired listing. Now, here's the thing. Anna said it, I want to repeat it. Don't sell on the phone. Well, why don't you think my house sold? Well, how are you going to do things differently? If you start giving them all the answers, why do they need to meet with you? Now they're going to write down all the answers, go back to their other agent, and just use them again. Don't sell on the phone. Your job on the phone is to find out more about them, find out their motivation, a little bit of it, 3 minutes of it, find out a little bit of the criteria, because you can't do a CMA without it. You can't price a house if you don't know if they think about, if you don't know about their house, you can't price a house. And then get your foot in the door. Your goal on the phone is set appointment, get foot in the door. That's it. That's your whole goal on every call. Appointment, foot in the door. Nothing else. No questions answered. Okay. So there was a couple, husband and wife. Husband's 86, wife 77. They live in Hagerstown. Now I live in Howard County. First listing ever, so I'm like, another listing. This is exciting. Or listing appointment, excuse me. So I was calling expireds. This home has been this couple has been trying to sell their house for 2 years. They have tried with 2 different agents. Both times, one was on the market for, I forget the exact amount of months, so I'm just going to make up months right now. One was on the market for like 9 months, when expired. Then a few months later, it got relisted again, went on market again with another agent. I think it was on the market for like 6 months or 7 months, when expired. Fast forward, I called them. Okay. Now again, what's the goal of the phone call?
Get the appointment.
Find out motivation, land the appointment, get the foot in the door. So found out a little bit about the motivation. I'll tell you that story in just a second. Because that's how I landed the appointment, the motivation. Landed the listing. Landed the listing if I chose to get it. I did not choose. So I got the appointment. I was all excited. It was my first one. I go home to my husband. I was like, oh my God, my first listing appointment. This is awesome. I have no idea what I'm doing. Right. So then of course I'm practicing. Like I made my husband pretend to be the seller. By the way, he works at a hospital. He has no information on, he doesn't know sales whatsoever. We also at that point in time didn't own a house, so we've never gone through buying or selling. We were renters. Right, so this is totally brand new to me. So just practice everything I could possibly practice and watch way too many YouTube videos. Right, which actually confused me more than if I just practiced. So I went out there, walked through the house, sat down at the table with the cutest couple ever. The husband, 86-year-old husband, had an obsession with what's that actress name from Friends? Jennifer Aniston. Like he had like pictures of her up in the house. He was like, "Have you ever watched Friends? What about this movie? Do you know Jennifer Aniston?" I was like, obsessed with her. It's hilarious. So you sit there, and again, and the woman, the wife, she every room was pink. Every room was pink. Carpets, walls. She handmade doilies for the curtains, like hand stitched doilies for the curtains, and thought it up the value by $10,000 because she was going to leave the doilies. This is no lie. It was super cute. Now again, you can't sit there. They haven't signed with me yet. They haven't chosen me, and I haven't chosen them. So I was not about to give them any sort of like no. So straight face. Now this one was hard to keep a straight face out because when she said I'm leaving the doily so we can get a higher price, my facial expression wanted to be like, really? Like, okay. But it was like, oh, well, these are beautiful. Wow, they must have take hours to make. We'll talk about that. In my mind, I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So I knew that it went expired twice. By the way, what does that tell you about the listing most likely? It needed some work, but if they weren't willing to do any work, price. This couple had no money. They weren't able to or willing to do any work in this house at all. Even the nice dip in the living room, when you walked in the living room and went, whoop. So I got shorter and then taller. That was fun too. So they needed a lower price. They had to sell it as is. So I knew that the battle that I was going to face as an agent was what? The price. I couldn't go in there with, all right, Rochelle, so we need to get you to North Carolina. We're going to drop the price because it was overpriced. That's why I didn't sell. Let's go ahead and drop the price. Because this couple was very set on a price. They were about 20,000 over what it should be. And those doilies were worth 10,000 more. Like, this is no joke. That's literally what they said. Okay. So I knew I couldn't come at them with just logic, facts. I spent about 15 minutes at the table digging into motivation. So here's a couple. By the way, expires didn't just all of a sudden go, well, it didn't sell, so I guess I'll just stay here forever and die here. Never mind, forget my family in North Carolina. I don't really like them anyways. I'm not going to move. Expires don't wake up and say, I don't want to sell. Every so often they might have a life thing that causes them to put it on hold, right? Expires want to sell, period. They were hoping to be somewhere for some reason. I had to dig into that. So 15 minutes later, what I found out was their kids lived in North Carolina. They had 3 grandkids, okay, ages 5 to 7 at that time, 5 to 8, something like that. They only had enough money, Social Security wise, retirement wise, to visit once a year. So they had to choose between birthdays, Thanksgiving, they celebrate Christmas, so Christmas. They had to make a choice to visit grandkids and their kids once a year. Their kids in North Carolina, who were raising 3 kids, did not have the money to fly up here. So they literally only visited this family once a year. So the reasoning for going down there was they were getting older, they're missing out on all of the milestones. They missed the ballet recital, they missed the dance, one of the kids was in a play. Right, they missed that. I had them show me pictures on a phone of the play they missed. Right. This year they had to choose between holidays, right? Last year they went out for Thanksgiving. That was the one thing they went out to. This year they were going to go out for Christmas. Okay, so what were they going to do for Thanksgiving? This is the layers deeper we're getting. So much so that the woman, yes, broke down in tears. Now, I'm not saying go out and make everybody cry, but sometimes you have to when you're talking about price. It only took 15 extra minutes. This wasn't like I wasn't there for like 2 hours, right? We as agents rush things. Stop rushing it. Stop just trying to get a signature. This is a person. They have emotions. They have a reason. They have a pain point. Find out what it is. So I was able to say, hey, here's the market. So now we're talking facts. We're talking the market. We're talking prices. I am showing them the market. I am showing them the houses that are selling. I'm showing them why their house is overpriced, and that's why it didn't sell. I had to have them come down in price, at least 15,000. And I was like, if you don't come down in 15,000, preferably 20,000 in price, you can keep hiring agents all day long. I will not be that agent you hire because I take listings that sell, not listings to just sit on the market. So I'm not your agent then. I was like, if you keep putting them, trust me, agents, and I told them, I said, agents will be happy to come by and put a sign in the yard because they want the neighbors listing. They want branding. They don't, live agents don't care if your house sells. So they'll be happy to take this overpriced. It'll go expired again. But what is that? How many years now? I brought it to this place. How many years do you have left? Yeah, I brought it there. I don't always recommend that, but I felt like we had a good, like, I mean, she was crying, I was crying, it was a whole thing. So I can't not cry if someone cries, like it's very, yeah. So it was a whole thing. So I was like, how many years do you have left? I mean, let's get you to North Carolina within the next 90 days. So that way, what's coming up? You can be there for Thanksgiving, Christmas. It was summertime, so I was like, you can be there for the school things, back to school night, grandparents' night. You said that they had that, grandparents' night. Sunday dinners, or hell, every night dinner, although I don't know if your kids really want that, right? That's the place you have to bring them sometimes. So, needless to say, they wanted to hire me, but then we started negotiating commissions. They refused to go. I went in there going, I'm willing to go all the way. Now, I started at 6. I went to 5.5. Then I went to 5. I live in Howard County. This is going to be a hard sell because of the house. Hard sell because of the way the house was. So I and I didn't want to work with buyers in Hagerstown because most of my business was in Howard County. Because that drive I personally chose. I didn't like it. So I made the business decision to say, listen, 5 is I know I can get this sold. 5 is my minimum, maximum, lowest, whatever the words are I'm looking for. They wanted 4% because they had another agent who was doing 4. Now, if that same couple, same property was closer to me, I would have taken it. Number 1, because I want my sign in the yard. Number 2, because I know I can help them. Number 3, because I want my sign in the yard. And number 4, because I want my sign in the yard and I know I can help them. Okay. You make choices on every listing. Okay, so what did you just learn from that one story right there? Besides you choose, yes.
That all money is good money. You know, you have taken that listing. It might stand on the market, you do a lot of work, and you come up with the same result.
So not all money is good money, right? Especially if you're taking something that you know is not going to sell. Now, here's the thing. I have a friend, there's someone I know in Maryland who their marketing plan is putting signs in the yard. And it has worked. They have built their 20-year business on it. And 60% of what they put on the market sells and 40% doesn't. But they have built a huge business on that. Again, you make choices. You make choices. This couple, I would feel really bad. I knew I could sell it, but I would feel really bad if I couldn't help them and I took that listing. Another agent, go right ahead. That's fine. Me, that would cause me to stay up at night because of their story. Okay. So few quick things, and then I'm gonna bring Zach from Home Sale Plus up to give you, I know we're going over, but this is another great, amazing method you can put in place this week to land listings. And Zach is gonna share in a minute approximately how many listings he takes. I'm looking at him because I haven't talked to him yet. So I'm like, I'm saying this with his permission. Actually more like forgiveness before permission, right? So how long you been in the business?
My first year, so just about a year.
So just about a year. Okay, so another tactic that you're gonna learn. But really quickly, here's the thing I want to point out regarding expired specifically. When you talk to an expired and you call them and they say, I'm no longer interested. 99.9% of the time, that is not true. Mindset. Yeah, that's that slide that was up. So you have to acknowledge and ignore. Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for sharing that. Let me ask you, when it was on the market back in the day, by the way, don't research when things were on the market, because if you dial 100 phone numbers today, only 10 or 20 people are going to actually answer. So if you spend research time on all 100, you're only talking about 10 or 20. So why did you just spend time on 80 other things that aren't even answering the phone? Let them tell you, hey, back in the day, when it wasn't a market, what had you thinking about moving back then? Okay, so acknowledge the fact that they just said something, but then ignore it and move on to get them talking. That is, if you were to take one thing away and start calling expireds, that right there, because that is going to be the number one stall that they're going to throw out at you to try to get you off the phone. I'm no longer interested, or putting it on hold, or we'll wait till the future. By the way, they all mean the same thing. It's all the same thing. Okay. Acknowledge, ignore, get them talking. All right. Zach, come on up here. Home Sale Plus. Give them knowledge. And you're on Zoom here, so talk closer to this so they can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
Ooh, let me get out of your way.
Hello, everyone, and on Zoom, who I haven't met yet. My name is Zach, and that's my father, Jerry, and he's one of the founders of the platform Home Sale Plus. And of course, like everything that is taught in this classroom, having the keys to really dig deeper and get more information from your client, from the seller that you're pitching anything to, is very important. And in my first year of real estate, I'm working on my 11th deal, and in the past 3 months, I'm working on my 7th listing. I just had.
Sorry, we pause there just a second. So you said in not even a year yet, you're working on your 11th deal, 7th listing.
Yeah, 7th listing in just the past 3 months. So, and of course, it took me time to get settled into the groove of how to really talk to people, getting that extra 30 seconds on the phone to call with them. And once I really got into it and I knew, this is what I need in order to talk to these clients, it just kickstarted me to really grow my business and myself every day to talk to more people. And with Home Sale Plus, it's transparent. It's everyone can see everything that's going on with offers. So that your seller, your buyer, agents can see all the offers on the property. So when you're calling your client and you're pitching something new, not only something new, but you're bringing in the tools you learn here. And when you gain that extra time on the phone, you're saying, hey, look, we have a dynamic platform. You're telling them about the things that you're doing. We get 50 to 150 showings on properties, the way we strategize and list them. So you're bringing a breath of fresh air to your clients, a foot in the door for sure that they haven't heard about yet. And they need motivation. They need something to really push them forward. So it has just been the best of both worlds. We're in here doing training sessions, and we're going to be in every other week. So I think it's on the 12th is the next one. So this is just a kickstart. It's great to implement the tools here at Keller Williams and to have Home Sale Plus. Every time I come to these classes, I take away something new that you guys teach me. And I just know when we start implementing it with Home Sale Plus, giving all the agents something new, and it's not, reinventing the wheel like my dad says, but something different to present to those clients. It just maximizes your potential to really grow the business and to really help yourself. And it's been amazing for me, and we're excited to come in and start teaching everybody and showing you guys how to take advantage of it.
So here's the thing, Brandon sat down with Jerry
Back in April.
some months ago, back in April. And was learning about what this platform looked like. They built a platform called Home Sale Plus. And the platform, which actually after this, we're gonna get everybody's information, maybe email them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So the platform that Home Sale Plus is built, that Jerry has built,
No, I'm not technical.
hire
But I-
somebody,
Conceptual.
you conceptualize it and hire someone to build, go ahead.
Yeah, I was with Remax before I founded this company, one of the founders, not the sole founder. But I was a top agent, from Platinum Awards every year for over 20 years. And the one thing that I thought in my mind was buyers, I knew buyers, even though I mostly listed properties. I would take friends out and relatives, and when I had a buyer, I would just think like, they're so frustrated that I can't give them good information. Like, oh, okay, I love it, okay, okay, let me check with this agent, find out what the deal is. They have 2 offers, what do you want to, here's what we can do. Well, Jerry, what do you think I should do? Well, what should we offer? How can I win? I want the property. I really want it. I've been looking in this area for a long time. And the bottom line is you're taking buyers out, the process. That secretive behind closed door process is so frustrating to buyers. But when you have 7 or 8 buyers and they don't know, and in this case said best and final offer, whatever offer they accept, there's no way the seller knows if they got the best deal, terms or price. How can they? The 7 or 8 buyers didn't know what they were getting. So I knew one thing. Terrible for buyers, but I started saying to listing agents, if you could just tell me what we're going up against, my buyers are very motivated. I'm going to give your seller a better deal. And they thought it was illegal, if you're getting extra people from top agents that I know now. Maybe you can't do that, or are you allowed to do that? Yes, you're allowed to do that. But you should tell everyone, except me. Although NAR says, if the seller says tell one, you just have to tell one, which doesn't make any sense. Well, what we did was, we created a platform where everybody can see every offer, like an auction, like you can online, if you find something online. You can see everyone's offers, and that meant that buyers could compete at the highest level against each other. Sellers know at the end, when they accept an offer, 500,000, 20% down conventional, versus the next one at 5, maybe there's 510 FHA, and they decide, okay, I want that. It's not just price, it's like any other deal. They can accept an offer based on price, terms, whatever they want. They know they didn't leave any money on the table. For sure. But what that gets to is what Zach does is, hey, my name's Jerry Silver. I'm with Home Sale Plus. Hey, I saw your house online. Looks like you have a beautiful home, John. I know that a lot of agents are blowing up your phone. Now, this is for buyers because people will always tell me, like you get calls like, Jerry, you took my home off the market. Did you give my number to 30 people? I'm like, why would I do that? They get bombarded with calls. So you say, hey, I know you've had every agent blowing up your phone. I'm going to tell you something that no other agent has ever told you. And most people, unless they're total buttheads, are going to say, well, what do you got? Right? I mean, just like, what is this? And that gives you the door to open about getting them to relate to an experience when they bought it with someone they know recently, about like the way a buyer, how it is for a buyer to make when they bought a house, how frustrating the process was. They then start feeling that and they all go, yeah, that other boy, we didn't know, and we missed 2 houses. It's like, yeah, so when that happens, so not only is it bad for the buyer, but the seller. And here's why. And then that's what we do. Now, all of the things about, we try and attack, I call our program the fast track to witness. That's it. The idea is he had no experience with this thing. I mean, he's a good guy, he's personable, but he basically I gave him some tools, and I said, here, you got something. He got acclimated to it, he didn't get any special training, I told him, develop your own way of doing it, here are the points. And he's getting listings like now every week. You start to get like a listing a week. You need something differentiating the marketplace. Uber does the same thing the taxis do. They take people from point A to point B, but they did it in their own space. They created something that gave them no competition when they first came. That's what you get. I know you got time constraints, but I mean, that's like the basic thing. What we'll do is, I do have scripts I've started to develop. I do have agents I've sent them to here. When I want to get on to role playing, I can walk you through. We can give you the different scenarios, and everything that you're taught here will play into that. Because once you get their ear, you naturally have to get a report with them. You naturally, every seller loves to tell you how great their evidence, and you want to listen to it. It builds a rapport with them. We do things a little differently than these approaches because we have something that's different, and it allows us to. But all the principles behind this are great. We just call what we have fast track.
And when talking to clients, it definitely, you just relate to your own personal life and to their life because they experience the same problems that you're presenting to them, the solution to it, of course. And the amount of phone calls, of course, in the beginning, I'm like nervous, but if you don't call them, you'll never know what the answer would have been. And so just after really getting it down and learning the way and taking those tools, I just started talking to more people than I ever thought I would, especially not knowing anything in the beginning about real estate and having to really navigate my way into it with this. So it's been great.
So their next session, obviously, don't worry, exchange emails, all that stuff, they can send you things ahead of time. And I know they're having a session right here on the 12th at 11 a.m. Right? Remember what you said to me. So on the 12th, 11 a.m. for those on Zoom, hopefully you can hear me. Can you hear me? Yes, okay. And go ahead.
We'll get you acclimated to what we do. We then can get into some training, which we can do on Zoom. I'll come in here. I did a session last Tuesday night for 3 agents that couldn't make it during the day. We really want to get you acclimated to the program, get you the scripts, get you the role playing, and we'll print materials for you free of charge. You don't have to pay anything. Professional folders, kind of something you can take to the listing point with your information, your branding, Keller Williams on there. And, we're constantly open to and willing to go the distance. I mean, there's nothing we want to do. You want to create a video with your team about wholesale costs, we haven't been done. We'll pay for professional photography for your listings that you put on the platform. If it's a high enough price, we'll pay for staging. Just depends on what the price point is. So, 11 o'clock next Wednesday, please. Yes.
12th, 11 o'clock. Thank you.
Wait a second. It is, we switched from Wednesday to Thursday. We went Tuesday,
We've swapped a lot.
then we went Wednesday.
What is there the or something?
Quantum Leap is, actually the
12.
The 12th, so I think that's why we're doing the 13th. You're right.
Ah, 13th. The 13th at
I'm one of
That's right. We talked on, you were on the Zoom. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
so it is the 13th, 11 o'clock.
Yes.
13th, sorry, 13th, 11 o'clock. All right. And they will be, by the way, this is ongoing. They're gonna be doing sessions every single month. I think it's twice a month now you're on the calendar. And as Jerry just said, we had a number of people interested, but they needed an evening thing. So you're like, okay, let's throw something on the calendar for the evening, right? They're here for Home Sale Plus and also for all of us to have just another tool in our tool belt, right? As agents, everything we learn is a tool, right? So when you just start out, brand new, 1 month in, it's, all right, I need to go to Lowe's and buy a toolbox. And it's empty. This toolbox is beautiful. It's bright yellow. I love it. Woo, great handle. Then, like, 30, 60, 90, whatever days later, you're like, yay, I have a hammer. This is awesome. I have a hammer, and this hammer is going to teach me how to dig for motivation with my clients. Now it's, oh man, look at this wrench, right? So it's just tools. That's all. Every single thing we talk about is just what's another tool we can put in. So then as agents make decisions on what we want to do. Just because we had a class and expires doesn't mean that all 7 who are online and people in here in person are going to run out tomorrow and start calling expires. Some of you are like, nope, I like my sphere. I like my open houses. I'm going to do this and this and this. I hate the phone. Okay, great. Don't ever call expires. There's plenty of agents who are super successful without doing that. Then there's a few of you who are going to say, I want listings even more than what I'm getting. Like I want to try this. I want to try this out. Now, when try this out means you got to commit. If you're going to try something, you got to commit for a minimum of 30 days, because you won't know if you actually like it for at least 30 days, because your first week, you're going to hate it. Anna said the same thing. You will hate it. I hate it. I couldn't stand it my first 2 weeks, because I got more cursed out than I've ever had in my life. And I used to be a complaint center for a telecommunication company. Okay. So I thought I had super thick skin until I started calling all these different lead sources. And it's not about you. They're just frustrated. So you just happen to be the person they're taking out on for a second. Okay. A few sources I mentioned I would give you for expireds. Here's the thing. Can you go into Bright MLS, pull expireds, then reverse look them up and whatever Spokio or whitepages.com or what is that one you use?
I use White Pages.
Free people search. There's so many places online that you can hunt down numbers, right? Some cost, some don't. Do your research. That's very time consuming. Very time consuming. A best practice, if you are going to put some time into expireds, meaning like 2-3 days minimum in your week, preferably 3, if not more, is you purchase an actual system. Now do your research. I'm going to name a few. They all have their own deals. Only sign up for expires, because for sale by owners, you can get for free on Zillow. So they'll try to upsell you on a whole bunch of other stuff. Just say no. You don't need it right now. Also, a lot of these places don't advertise it online, but if you call them and physically talk to a person, they sometimes do free trials. I've always gotten free trials because I will talk to everybody in the sun until they say yes to me. I'll pick companies against each other. I'm really good at that. So RedX, REDX, that's kind of the new hottest kid on the block. And that's what I've been using for years. You use that. There is Land Voice, all one word. Mojo. I'm not going to talk about the dialer because there are a lot. Mojo just had a huge lawsuit in a bunch of states where now they got kicked out of those states. They can't do it. But Mojo does provide expireds, the actual information. MOJO, Mojo. Espresso Agent. Espresso, ESPRESSO. So Espresso Agent. It's another one. Literally, if you go to Google and you type in expired real estate leads, all of these companies come up. Every one of these companies, 60% of the information they provide you is good. 40% is absolute crap. Meaning you're going to all of a sudden call a phone number and the person's going to be like, what are you talking about? I live in California. That's never been my address. You got to get every one of these companies is the exact same thing. You have to weed through the crap to get to the good. So you got to be willing to do that. With expires, it typically takes 20 no's to get a yes. So technically 19 no's to get one yes. So if you play a game with yourself this week and you say, let's say that Rebecca wants to call expires this week. And by the end of the week, she's like, this does not work. My first question to her is going to be, how many did you hear voice of? They could hang up on you, but how many did you hear the hello? If she goes, I heard 5 hellos. What am I going to say back to her?
Not a big enough sample.
Not a big enough sample. You were 15 away from a yes. Now, if all of a sudden Zach calls them and he says, yeah, this doesn't work. My first question is, well, how many did you connect with this week? Again, hello. Right. And he says 25. What am I going to say to Zach? He just started this week. He connects with 25. What am I going to say to Zach? The numbers will play out if you keep doing it, and you just started. Of course, you're going to be crap. Your first month will be crap. Your first 2 weeks will be extra crap. Because you've never done it before. So how can you get good at it? You can't be. Right? That's like saying any 5-year-old can get on a bike and just ride it with nothing. No training wheels, no experience, nothing. Great, go ride a bike. Yay. Right? That's like saying if you've never swam in a pool, you can jump in the pool and do like 20 laps. You got to give it time. Now, if after 30 days, Zach keeps saying every week, I keep talking to 25, talking to 25, talking to 25 with nothing, now there's probably a closing tactic that he needs some help with. And that's a simple, great. Let's practice a closing tactic because you're probably having a good conversation, but not closing it pretty quickly. Let's tie that in. So we're whipping out on this like no time. Okay, so time on task. 20 no's to get to a yes. Play a game. Draw 20 boxes on a piece of paper. Check mark every time you hear a voice. If you look at the check boxes and you see that you are 18 check boxes in your week or your day, I used to do it 20 a day. In your day or your week, if you have 18 check boxes of no's, you're 2 away. Don't give up. You're 2 away. You're like right there with one more pickaxe, you can find the diamonds, but you give up. Okay. All right. Was this helpful?